What's good, YouTube? It's Jay here, and today we're going to be talking about some of the changes that are going to be coming in the next version or future versions of Empire War Remake. I'm not exactly certain what all is coming in the next upcoming hotfix. I do know that 4.1 won't be coming for a long time. That's going to be another semi-overhaul, kind of. But for the time being, we're going to go over some of the things that have been brought up between me and the devs, publicly and privately, that I'm allowed to talk about anyway, because I'm actually... but beyond just being a mod and a tester for Empire War Remake, I actually do get to see a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. So I'm in the mod chats with the devs. I see all the like backseated discussions about opinions on the mod and things like that. So I'm not just a tester. I actually am on the team in some sort of way. I give my thoughts and opinions on things frequently, and they ask for a lot of feedback from me as well, because I do a lot of YouTube content for it. So we'll go a little bit more into that later, but let's go over the dev change log that we currently have with the mod. So one of the first major changes coming is a change to orbital strikes. They're becoming more of an artillery strike versus like a global win button. Smaller radius, shorter bombardment. Shield generators now only cover the base area, not the entire planet, only the base area, which is a change I think a lot of people are probably going to welcome, because you get locked out of your orbital bombardment pretty early in the game, and I guess that's because the OG bombardment system was meant to make it a win-all kind of button, and the planetary shields also locked you out of bombers as well, which I know a lot of people were in fact not a big fan of, but there's a bit of a reason kind of for this. For one, you'll be able to outside of the base area, you'll be able to actually call in bombing runs and artillery strikes, which will still allow you to have usage of those pieces of utility outside of, you know, attacking the base. Like, you can still use them without a shield generator preventing you from using them. That'll add a bit of a difference to the gameplay. Again, the artillery strikes will just be more smaller artillery. They'll be an artillery strike. They'll literally be an artillery strike. I'm going to skip over these tidbits right here because I want to stay on the orbital bombardment changes, and then we'll come back to them. There's going to be an attrition cost added to land or bombing run units. I'm pretty certain it's only like 150 per bomber. Nothing crazy. The amount of people that complain about the attrition cost, you guys got to relax, man. It's meant to add a bit more depth to it. It's meant to add a bit more less freeness to it, because of most Empire War mods, most things are just free. You get so much shit for free. You could stuff for 400 credits. You'll be okay. Calling it an orbital bombardment strike, just to mitigate the fact that it is now not affected by the shield generator, it'll cost you 2,000 credits. That's still not bad in my opinion. It'll just make it so you have to play around it. If you want to spam it, by all means spam it, but you're gonna have to pay for it. I mean, it makes sense to me. It personally makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, it's not meant to just be a free win-all button. Like, the mod's meant to be fun, but it's also meant to make not just give you the freest shit that you could probably get out there. So Kaz did write up a short explanation on why the orbital bombardment was removed for the artillery strike version. Pros, it looks cool. Cons, it takes away an interactive gameplay element by locking overpowered orbital strikes for 98% of the battle, which is true. You don't get to use these strikes until the very end of the battle. In the 2% you can use it, it is useless as all enemy units are protecting the base and need to be eliminated before you can even call in the auto-win bombardment. Once you use it, you shell empty ground with nothing on it, which is true. A lot of times in many different battles, I found myself just striking basically dead land. The battle's already over by the time I get to use this ability. So it being a strike will still be cool. I mean, you can still use it throughout the battle, and it won't just be a free instant win either, because there's a bit of a cost to it. But again, I don't think 2,000 credits is a problem whatsoever. That's not that expensive. You'll be okay. It makes every battle the same without ever adding variety to it. You go to base, take out shield generator, power gen, shell empty ground, repeat. True. Technical difficulties. It is not possible to have a functional shield provided with the outpost. A second building needs to spawn either the power or the shield itself. Having two components makes your defense... Wait, I gotta read that over. Having two components to make your defense even work is convoluted and already causing confusion on how the fuck the shield even works. True. In contrast to this, the new smaller orbital strike adds interactive gameplay mechanic that can be used 100% of the battle time, so you can use it as much as you want, or as many credits as you're willing to spend. It adds variety to your approaches. You can use this additional tool throughout the battle in suitable situations. Still obliterates columns of tanks and infantry units in one strike. Solves the technical limitations as a shield is not a requirement anymore to even be able to defend a planet. Makes bombing runs usable again throughout the battle. Cannot be abused as you need to pay for it, which is how it should be. You shouldn't just... Because the thing is with this, if you have the credits to pay for it, it's not timed, I'm pretty certain anymore. So you'll still be able to use it back to back to back. It's not going to be timed anymore. It's going to purely be based on the amount of money you have. But you have to look at that from a certain standpoint. That would be extremely, extremely broken if it was just for free. Okay, so but that's pretty much it on the new orbital artillery strike. Some of the changes: turbo laser towers' health has been increased because they are truly pretty fucking pathetic. Power generator health has been decreased because for some reason the power generators have more health than the actual shield generators. Now, mind you, one thing to keep in note is turbo laser towers lose, I think, 50% or more of their overall damage output when the shield generator is destroyed. They're not turned off, but they basically become potatoes once the power generator is gone. That 6500 really won't make too much more of a difference. It's just to put a little more effort into killing them, but they're meant to be these towering, hulking things that you're supposed to be afraid of, not something pathetic and weak. And on paper, they're really not that bad. I mean, if you play with the system that's kind of implemented, where you have infantry first to kind of take some of the fire, you shouldn't have too much trouble taking the turbo laser towers. The AA rocket tower health has been decreased, and there is a big change coming to the AA rockets that I will discuss after we finish kind of going over here, because it was in the private conversation. So HE missile splash damage range, I think it's been increased, or it's been decreased. Yeah, it's been decreased. Armor piercing anti-tank missile splash damage decreased. Range decreased from 50 to 30. Turbo laser splash range decreased. This accounts for the tighter unit spacing that got introduced with the total war style formations, which is cool. It makes it so, like, if you have groups of infantry units with the new system, they won't just immediately be completely obliterated. Close camera on ground maps fixed. There was a bit of an issue with maps like Alderaan and Rendili, where you were just literally in the face of the units of the map. It was very bad. Calling it a bombing run is in fact now 450 credits per bombing run, 150 per bomber. Okay, so that also has a bit of an attrition cost to it. But again, 450 is literally nothing. We got some updated Venator turret lights with a new texture, which looks kind of cool. You can actually see like the windows and stuff. I didn't even know these had windows. That's cool. That's cool. You can see windows. It's based on Fractal Sponge's new Redux of the Secular. The Republic variant now has all dual turbo laser variants. This has no actual improvements. Before, some of those were quads, but are now duals that fire twice, just visual. Nothing special. Imperial one, the Imperial version of this still has quads. But okay, so the Secular has all these new double turbo lasers. It still looks cool. That's a lot of guns. These things are hard to kill. Not hard, but, you know, hard. Thanks to the idea and share code of our friends from AOTR, we've widened the mission window for easy of reading, which will be good. Read the damn instructions! Broken texture shaders and AI data fixed across all ground maps. Artillery shells are no longer free. They will cost you 20 credits per shot. If you have them shell the enemy nonstop, that'll cost you about 1,200 in 5 minutes. I don't think a lot of people are going to realize that this is legitimately not that bad. I've tested this. I've read a lot about it. This is nowhere near as bad as it sounds. I can promise you that right now. I can promise you that right now. It's not bad. I'm not even saying that to be just a big fanboy, because I'm actually on the team, not just a fucking fan. But this is not that bad. I can tell you that right now. Wrong turbo laser tower projectile fixed, plus 30% damage reduction. Oh, okay. 50% damage reduction now to turbo flak and rocket tower, as the power generator adds a 50% damage bonus to them. Okay, so those got a universal nerf altogether, so turbo laser towers are not really going to be that bad. That health buff is good if this is the case, because it makes it so while they're still strong, they're not insta-killable. So there were a few things in here that were mentioned by Jaron, the owner of Empire War Remake. His father recently is recovering from a heart attack, so, you know, thoughts and love to his family and whatnot. He could definitely see from the Empire campaign, where he's about 85 months so, and he can see where people are hitting difficulty walls, especially when thrown in the deep, having no clue about things like upkeep or planet types. Some very minor balance tweaks and fixes. The Galactic Conquest is meant to be a hard, difficult journey with lots of opportunity for failure and just flat out losing. The hardcore economy will be ever so slightly tweaked to be a little bit easier. The base income of planets will be bumped a little, so structures that provide a percentage of base income like trade hubs will be a little bit more effective. So there's going to be a bit of a universal buff to the overall money that planets themselves generate, because I definitely can agree that that probably needs a little bit of a adjustment. There's some very expensive worlds you can go after, and they ultimately don't really give you that much in return. There may or may not also be an economic structure specifically for temperate worlds Actually, we can skip this tidbit because that actually did in fact get added. It's actually mentioned right here, so we'll skip this part. The overall difficulty will stay difficult. The mod is meant to be hard, as that it's very the design goal difficulty through depth of economy. A few more choices in that depth will be helpful though. So to add on to those changes, agricultural settlements are now a thing for temperate worlds, which were lacking in their own structure. They had the urban worlds had the taxation agencies, and the barren worlds had the mining facilities. So agricultural settlements are now for the temperate worlds. Up to 2 settlements can be built for 150 income each. They can be upgraded to planetary agricultural communities for 350 income each. So not bad. All gunships that come in pairs with 2, the K-Wing, the Target, and the Crate now have increased shield points, hit points, and shield generation. They did not live up to their intended purpose of being a strong and durable well, I need to stop reading so fast. They did not live up to their intended purpose of being as strong and as durable as 2 per squad gunships were meant to be. The Crate additionally now has more forward-facing firepower in its heavy lasers. Gas giants can build gas refineries. These gave a 500% base income increase. Now they only give 350%. Yeah, they're a little broken. They were giving a little too much money. All base income for planet system sectors now get 50% more income. This is a significant increase. Overall, this will not boost your income by much, as most of your income will be from static sources that do not interact with planetary base income. Mines and taxations do not scale with base income. They give a set amount of additional income. A few buildings like the trade hub will be affected, as these do give a percentage of base income, slightly buffing trade hubs and gas refineries. Gas refineries were already in a good place and were nerfed as a result. So the trade hub and the gas refineries got a buff in a sense, but the gas refineries also got a bit of a nerf because they were giving away too much with the new changes. It'll make the economy overall a little bit more forgiving, but still difficult. And then shout out to Cass for plugging my YouTube channel. All right, so shadow reflection problems on ground fixed. Infantry spawns instantly. Vehicles don't need their own, or don't speed off on their own anymore. This is a change I heavily advocated for in the private chats with the mod team, because this was arguably the biggest issue I had on ground. My thoughts on the ground are this: I don't think units move too slow. I don't think it's an unfair system. I don't think any of that shit. And I'm not just saying that as a guy who's tested it. I truly don't think that ground is as complicated as a lot of people are making it out to be. It just takes practice. But vehicles speeding off on their own was an issue I had personally, where my TX-130s as the Empire, for example, would just randomly run off into the distance for no reason to chase after an enemy unit they saw that I didn't even tell them to attack. So with this being fixed, that's really good. Ground AI fixes. AI will tech up quicker in skirmish, cast drop delayed. AI will build turrets shortly after a battle begins now. I haven't played skirmish yet in the new version. I've been mostly focusing on the Galactic Conquest. So for you skirmish heads out there, bravo. This change has been completely reverted. I can tell you that right now. You can bring in 3 instead of 2 regiments. This has been changed. I advocated for this to stay the 2 regiment system because the whole goal of that was to make it, to give you something to work for, because certain landing zones give you more reinforcement points. However, I will agree that there was some discussion brought up that fighters are relatively useless in ground combat early on because the AI builds those big, tall AA towers constantly on almost every world. So originally, the original solution for this was going to allow you to basically bring in an additional regiment to make up for that, but it didn't actually make any sense because that still doesn't inherently solve the problem of fighters being useless on the ground. So we switched it back to 2, but in order to actually completely readjust the system, those systems and sectors will now only have the big rocket AA turrets. Those are the only locations that will have those massive turrets that were able to instantly delete fighters. Smaller worlds and like little shitty worlds that only have like 4 build slots, they're now going to have the pirate AA gun as a build option for those worlds. However, they will not be even remotely as strong as the rocket turrets, and your fighters will be able to engage them and play their support roles still without just being immediately killed off. So that makes it so we can still keep the 2 regiment system, which forces you to kind of play a little bit more proactively to get those other landing zones, but it also won't make fighters completely useless. Now, as far as the turrets are concerned on the system and sector locations, those rocket turrets are still going to be monsters. You're going to know this though going into those battles, so if you lose those units proactively, that is completely going to be on your end. Those structures are meant to be as daunting as they look. But again, they're only going to be on those fortress worlds, those heavy worlds. You won't see them on every single random little dirt ball in the middle of nowhere on the Outer Rim region. So I think that's a fair change. Foreign regiments are being added for the Rebels, the Empire, and the Underworld. CAS assault tanks, assault regiments, Republic LAATs, Siege, ATTE regiments, Hapen Take regiments, Mandalorians, and so on and so on. Basically, we're getting all the minor factions regiments added as buildable options for the other worlds, but I'm going to assume you have to capture those specific worlds, like probably like the Hapes cluster or Rendili maybe, or something like that. You know, you're gonna have to capture specific worlds to build these. You still don't just get them for free. Ground and space weapons cost decreased from 25k to 20k. Upkeep increased a little bit. I think that's okay. Attrition costs added per projectile fired 2,000. This actually gets adjusted a little bit later down here because Cass even probably admitted that that's probably a little ridiculous. Stronger garrisons added to outposts depending on tech level. So your colonies have, or your outposts rather, will have stronger garrisons based on your tech level. That's really cool. Supply posts cannot be used to build or repair heal stations and sensor nodes. So, okay. So your spawn in or your landing zone, so to speak, or your supply zones are what adds you that extra reinforcement point, but you can't land extra units at these points. They only add a reinforcement point. You could build extra things here now, which is pretty cool. The Celestian Artillery Regiment now only consists of 3 AACs. MLCs are too strong considering their intercept comm ability. I actually have yet to use this regiment, so I can't speak on that. An update to the ground space weapon upkeep, now down to 250. Cost per projectile is 250 as well, so that's probably because this was just a little too much with the attrition cost of common fighters. I completely can agree that this is probably a better change overall. And then again, this is a basic description of what's happening with the fighter changes on the ground. A small change to ground fighter defense. The big auto delete AA rocket tower is now exclusive to sectors and systems. These rocket towers will instantly delete your fighters. If you deploy fighters with these boys present, it is your own fault on losing them. So scout ahead, use your pro droids, determine what those systems and sectors have, because those are the hard sectors. They're meant to be difficult to capture. However, to give you more of a chance to use ground fighters, planets can only house the weaker flak tower. These will still delete fighters over time, but you can deploy fighters and keep them alive long enough to have them in a support role. I do know that those towers are getting a slight buff to fire rate to make them a little bit more balanced, because they have a bit of a hard time hitting fighters universally. But again, I think this is a fair change. I think if you throw your fighters into the blender knowing that those big towers are there, that is your own fault. But I do completely agree that it was unfair to have the AI building those same huge flak towers on every single location. It made it so fighters were basically unusable. You never used them in combat because you just got shot down really easily. So this is a great change. Not an overall nerf, like there's still some danger to these flak towers, but at the same time, you know, those big ones are good on the planets they're going to be on. Now I do have some notes pulled up right here. This is from a private chat. Some slight changes are coming overall. Here's some additional things that were not mentioned in the changelog. So to avoid the pain of seeing the AI attack you every 10 minutes with their heroes over and over again, the respawning of your heroes will be completely reworked. Vanilla has one universal respawn timer. Now heroes respawn for the player will be events that happen upon the death of a hero, while the AI will have a set universal time for all of theirs. The issue with just universally increasing it for everyone is that a fighter hero will die easily. Same with Corvette ones. Why should they take an extended time? So now, each type of hero ship will have their own respawn time with an event that pops up. With an event that pops up text letting you know when they die. Corvette squadrons, or fighter squadrons will respawn in 5 minutes, which is cool. Corvettes in 10 minutes. What the current release time for all is. Frigates at 15, capitals at 20. The AI will have a universal 20 for everything. That's the goal at least. Times are possibly going to change. There's also a more casual galactic conquest in the works, because the 28 planet one really isn't a starter galactic conquest, is what we've been telling people, but honestly we've all realized that it's not a good example of that, because the economy is still very bad in it and it's still very hard to get kind of started in it. So that's being adjusted overall with a brand new galactic conquest that'd be a little more casual. How that's going to be exactly more casual, I'm not sure, but you know, we'll find out eventually. The Empire is getting a few new ships to start with, and the rest of the GCs instead of all gunships and corvettes. This is a change that we debated on for a long time. I mean, I think a lot of the problem with the Empire right now is people want to really play their Empire power fantasy, but the overall goal of the mod is to be literally like a civilization kind of builder kind of thing right now, where you have to build up everything first instead of just getting a bunch of free shit, which is exactly how it should be for this mod in particular. But it also felt probably a little demoralizing to start as the Empire and all you have is just gunships and corvettes. So it's safe to say you might see a couple of gladiators here and there, some vindicators, maybe even just a few extra starting ships to give you right at the gate, because you in fact are the Empire. You probably should start with a couple of extra frigates and stuff, not just a bunch of fighters and corvettes. I mean, I could completely understand people's issues with that. But you won't just be getting like 10 free Star Destroyers or something. That's just stupid. Star Destroyers are very damn good in this mod, and it would make it very easy for you to win your early games if you started off with like 5 Star Destroyers. You would literally not lose this game, ever. But a few frigates and a few cruisers, that's more than fair. Loads of little fixes all around, so there's likely more highlightable things I just can't really recall right now. And this is by Nico. Nico, recall your fixes. But that's pretty much it. I mean, there are more changes to come. I haven't heard anything else today aside from the new turret changes, which were suggested by me. I suggested this change again because I didn't want to see the regiment system adjusted to where you get just more shit right off the gate, because that doesn't fix the inherent issue with the AA guns. It just didn't. Like, you get one extra regiment to start off with, defeats the whole purpose of going out and capturing the supply posts to add more regiments into the battle. It just completely defeats the entire purpose of pretty much everybody in the mod team agreed to that. But I also was in complete agreement that the AA towers are a little fucking broken, and they should probably only be to very specific worlds, while smaller worlds get the shittier flak turrets. You know, it's still a challenge to fighters, but fighters won't get instantly deleted. They can actually probably even destroy these before they get shot down, and they can still play their support roles. Overall, you get to use these units that you've built more and more, because it is a little demoralizing to build a fighter unit and basically never have a reason to use it because it'll just die every single battle. That won't be the case anymore. So I advocated for this change. Again, I thought it was more than a fair adjustment to put those AA rocket towers on sectors and systems. That just seemed way more fair, because it was a little bullshit. Every battle I went into, I didn't have any AA units, but I did notice, not AA units, I didn't have any Starfighter units, but I did notice, even with all my tank regiments and stuff, that these rocket towers were on every single planet. So happy to see that's going to be a change. That's very fair and very balanced, I think. We'll have to see how that kind of plays out. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about these changes in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Be sure to leave a like on it and sub to the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one. May the force with you all. Peace.